Hey everybody, this is Jeff Donovan from Donovan Pickups. How are you doing today? So today we're here to talk about two different pickups. First is a P90, the second is a Humbucker. P90 is a single coil, Humbucker has two coils. Both have their own unique sounds and both are sought after. So you will notice that the P90 is quite a bit longer than the Humbucker. It's about the same width, a little bit narrower, but about the same. But as far as length goes, it's quite a bit longer. And for a guitar player that wants the P90 into a guitar equipped with humbuckers, well, that's going to mean rerouting the guitar to make this fit. Maybe not, but in most cases it will mean rerouting the guitar. So the big question becomes, how do we get this type of pickup into this form factor and have it sound the same? Now, it's quite a challenge, and there's nothing really new about this. Many people have made Humbucker-sized P90 pickups, including myself, but they never quite sound the same. They never quite sound the same as this. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Mainly about getting enough wire into a single coil that will fit into this form factor. So, after building quite a few of these myself, I really sat down and re-examined the whole problem from the ground up. The problem being, how do we get enough wire of the right wire gauge to match this pickup, but in this form factor? That's what this video is about. Here we go. So here we have two humbucker bobbins on a standard humbucker frame, P90 bobbin on a P90 frame, and a P90 sized humbucker bobbin on a humbucker frame. Here we have the P90 bobbin, and we have the P90 bobbin in a humbucker sized form factor. You can see from the P90 bobbin that we've got a lot of room to get our wire in there. It's a very narrow channel for the pull screws to come through, and we've got a lot of room in both length and width. The P90 sized humbucker bobbin, you can see, is much smaller and allows for much less wire to go onto the bobbin. Even though it is a little bit wider than a standard humbucker bobbin, that makes absolutely no difference. In fact, you could use a regular humbucker bobbin and you would still have the same amount of wire that you could fit onto this. Even though this is wider, why is that? Well, it's because of the fact that the wire still has to make its way to both ends. And when your wire exceeds the end amount, well, it doesn't matter how wide it is, you're not going to get any more wire on the bobbin. So the question becomes, how do we get more wire onto this bobbin? And the only real answer, because the only place you have to go, is up in height. So here's one of the bobbins that I make, and these, I call these the machine bobbins. So we can see here that on my bobbin we have quite a bit more height, and that is going to allow us to get a lot more wire on that bobbin. It's about 2 millimeters higher, and even though that's not much, it will make all the difference in the world of getting the right amount of wire that we want to get that P90 sound. Now with a humbucker with two bobbins on it, it's really common to see these without covers on them. In fact, it's probably more common to see them without covers than with a cover on it. This is a finished one that has no cover on it, and that's what you'd expect to see in the guitar. You can, of course, put covers on them, and many of the covers look really nice, but you don't have to, and this has become quite a nice aesthetic look. Over here, however, you can see you probably would not want to put that in your guitar that way. It would work, sure, but it's not going to quite look like you would expect it to look with a finished humbucker. So what you're going to end up doing is putting some type of top or just a cover completely around it. Here's a nice example of one that has a cover on it. I just put a wood top on the cover, and then it's enclosed in a metal cover frame. Also, because this is one whole piece, even though you're not going to get the wire around everything, you will be able to fit it on a standard humbucker frame, and you won't have to put a cover on it if you don't want to. Now, of course, you might want to put a top on it so you can spice up the look a little bit, like something like that. But there would be no need to have to cover it like there would be when you're using this bottom. It would just go like that. You tape up around the edges with coil tape, and you'd have basically a nice little pickup sitting in your guitar. So that's about it. That's how I make my bobbins, so that I get enough wire, and not only enough wire, but enough wire of the correct wire gauge to duplicate this as close as possible. There are certainly other factors involved, like the magnets that you use. And you would think if you're trying to duplicate this pickup, that you would use the same type of magnets in this pickup. Well, it's not necessarily true. Maybe we'll dive into that in another episode, but this concludes this episode. If you want to see how I build the P90 in a humbucker form fashion, stay tuned for part 2. Thanks for watching. Okay, so in this last section, we're going to do a little sound comparison here. Where here I've got this SG, and it has a real P90 in it, approximately 9.5K output. Here's my Flying V, and this is the P90 in a humbucker form factor, and this is approximately 9.5K output as well. This is actually the exact pickup that I just made in part 2 of the video. So, even though they're two different guitars, you would expect to hear pretty much the same sound out of both if the pickups are comparable. I wish I had two similar SGs to try this with, but I only got one, so I'm going to be using these two guitars. I'm also not making this video to demonstrate my guitar playing skills. I'm just going to play a few short, simple riffs so that you can hear the tone of both pickups. I'll do them one after the other, and I'll probably do about 3 different riffs, and you can judge for yourself. So I am recording this just on my cell phone just to keep this simple. Everything is the same, identical settings, EQ settings, volume settings. Nothing changes except for me switching the guitars. All right, here we go.